You know, I really liked DanMachi Season 2. I really thought this show was going to be my next 3D Kanojo, where I talked crap about the first season to only be floored by the second season. However, DanMachi Season 2 has committed one of the worst writing sins you can commit. It's even considered one of the golden rules of writing to not do this. Today, I want to talk about what this writing sin is and just how damaging it can be. But first, a bit of context. To understand what I'm talking about, we have to go back, and I mean way back, to the year of 1986. I know, this video is already taking a very weird turn, but hear me out. Dallas was a super popular soap opera with a following near Game of Thrones levels of hype. It followed a cast of characters who were all stuck in a love triangle. The main character of the show was Bobby. He's basically a harem protagonist, but in soap opera form. He had a ton of admirers, including but not limited to his fiancée Pam, Jenna his childhood friend, and Catherine his sister-in-law. Jesus, this show really was just a harem anime. That aside, the situations began to elevate, and finally something had to break, and in the finale of Season 9, Bobby is run over by Catherine and killed. The main protagonist of the show, the character that all the women were after, had died in a cliffhanger in the finale of Season 9. So needless to say, the hype around Season 10 was massive. Everyone was excited to see how the show would change now that Bobby was dead. And when the first episode of Season 10 came around, this scene happened. This scene has been referenced so many times, and for good reason. It genuinely retcons the entire 9th season of the show simply because the writers cornered themselves, and instead of coming up with a creative solution, their answer was, "It was all a dream." I know, it's infuriating. Basically, the show lied to its audience so much that the only way it could possibly continue onwards was to pretend the entirety of the 9th season didn't exist. People were angry, and for good cause. Why dangle such an enticing and crazy plotline in front of the audience, then, for lack of a better word, chicken shit out of it? It's egregious and deserves to go down in infamy. But believe it or not, I believe what DanMachi Season 2 did was even worse than what Dallas did. So for those of you who are avid followers of my channel, you'll know a few weeks back I did a video on DanMachi Season 2 where I genuinely praised the show. Luckily, that video did terrible. I guess hindsight is 20/20, and now that video has been properly unlisted. By the way, if you are genuinely curious to see the video, I'll have a link to it in the description. Basically, I praise this anime, which is clearly a harem, for doing something incredibly original, introducing a nuanced female character. God, now that I say it out loud, it's kind of depressing. But Haruhime was a female character who was ashamed of being a prostitute. She genuinely believed that she had no right to be saved and was merely a slave to one of the familias. She was basically just awaiting her death because she was no longer pure and never truly fought to maintain her purity. She was awesome. She challenged our protagonist, Belle's morals. He wants to be this hero, and in most of the tales he grew up with, prostitutes were deemed as symbols of destruction. If he were to save Haruhime, he'd be going against the tales he grew up with. And you know what? He does. He fights for her, carving out his own path to being a hero for the first time, and shows her that he's willing to accept her for who she is. It's heartfelt and touching, and after he manages to rescue her, she joins his familia where she's not judged for her previous actions, but at times still reveals the scars she received while being a slave. It's profound, it's deep, and it's not actually what happened because of course not. Granted, most of it happened, but once Haruhime is going off to join Hestia's Familia, after the emotional climax of this arc, this little dialogue takes place. Revealing that she was in fact never a prostitute and is still a pure and sweet virgin. But let's not tell Belle or Haruhime about it. Let's just say this so the audience knows it's canon. Oh god, kill me. I know what the comments are going to say for those of you who are hardcore DanMachi sympathizers, so let me cut you off a bit early. I know in the perspective of Belle and Haruhime, this changes nothing since they both truly believed in what they were doing, and you're right. So why the hell is this line in there? Well, it's for the audience. The show is okay with challenging Belle to go through these kinds of things and understanding nuanced situations. But we can't very well force that on our audience, can we? Christ, no. Let's just make her a virgin so they can all justify fantasizing about her late at night without a guilty conscience. It's insulting and retcons this incredible character arc for what? So people who are prejudiced against girls who aren't pure in their minds can watch the show without having their views challenged? What the hell kind of media is that? It's genuinely worse than what Dallas did. At least with Dallas, the retcon was necessary because the writers backed themselves into a corner by killing off the main character. But no, DanMachi wrote it in simply as a cop-out to prevent their audience from having their own morals challenged. It's insulting to the audience, and it's insulting to the very subject matter that they were talking about. This kind of writing does more damage because it undermines what the protagonist was doing in the first place, having his morals challenged. Thanks to this little retcon, the argument of this arc can and always will be, well, yeah, but technically she was still pure, so it was all okay. No, that's not the lesson they were trying to teach, but it's what they ended up saying, and that, in my mind, does more damage to this nuanced argument they were trying to have about prostitution and purity. DanMachi Season 2 is terrible, and is probably now one of my most hated anime. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm really happy I have to make this video because Sloan, the female otaku, and I were DMing back and forth about how much we loved this show until this episode happened. Yeah, needless to say, we were both pretty damn angry. I'm honestly just glad that I was able to put it into words why what they did was so bad. Either way, a huge thank you to my patrons. You guys are my heroes. Speaking of which, if you want to see how I edit, join our exclusive Discord, or simply support the channel, feel free to join me on Patreon. Make sure you guys share, like, comment, and subscribe. This is Manime Matt. Make sure you guys stay a man and go watch that goddamned anime.